You've been doing the work for months, maybe years. The therapy, the shadow integration, the brutal self-honesty, the boundary setting, the pattern recognition, and nothing is happening. You sit there in the quiet of your room, completely exhausted and utterly frustrated, wondering why the relentless effort to heal has left you feeling more stagnant than ever before. You have journaled until your hands ached. You have meditated until the silence became deafening. You have analyzed your childhood wounds, and you have consciously tried to rewrite your deeply ingrained neural pathways, yet your external reality remains stubbornly, painfully unchanged. It feels like a profound betrayal by your own psyche, a cruel joke where you are the only one putting in the unbearable effort while the universe seemingly ignores your desperate pleas for a breakthrough. What I am about to reveal will either terrify you or relieve you completely, because the truth about deep structural psychological change is not what modern self-help has conditioned you to believe. You have been sold a lie of incremental progress, the idea that every day you get a little bit better, a little bit more healed, a little bit closer to your authentic self. And when that doesn't happen, you naturally fall into despair, convinced that you are fundamentally broken or that you are doing the process wrong. But here is what you don't know yet. True, irreversible transformation does not happen gradually. It happens suddenly, violently, and without any conscious warning, reorganizing your entire existence in the blink of an eye. When the legendary Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung examined the deepest layers of the human psyche, he discovered that what we perceive as stagnation is actually a period of intense, advanced unconscious preparation. Your conscious mind is blind to the monumental shifts occurring beneath the surface, where the foundations of your old identity are being systematically dismantled and replaced. Jung understood that the psyche operates on the principle of enantiodromia, the inevitable emergence of the unconscious opposite when an extreme one-sidedness has been reached in conscious life. You have been pushing so hard, trying to force the integration, trying to consciously orchestrate your own evolution, but the conscious ego cannot heal itself. It can only surrender to the deeper process of unconscious reorganization. The unbearable tension you feel right now, the feeling of being completely stuck and failing at life despite your immense effort, is not a sign of failure, but the absolute prerequisite for a sudden, radical shift. You are building up a massive reservoir of psychological energy, creating a tension of opposites within your soul that must eventually reach a critical mass. Think of an earthquake. The tectonic plates grind against each other for decades, locked in a silent, invisible struggle, building up unimaginable pressure while on the surface, everything appears completely still and unchanged, until one day, in a fraction of a second, the pressure reaches that critical mass, and the Earth fundamentally reorganizes itself. This is exactly what is happening inside your mind right now. You are in the terrifying liminal state, the threshold between the old you that is dying and the new you that has not yet been born, and it is the most uncomfortable, disorienting place a human being can inhabit. You feel entirely disconnected from your past, unable to relate to the person you used to be, yet you have no idea who you are becoming, leaving you floating in a void of uncertainty and fear. But Jung's clinical observations assure us that this unbearable waiting room of the soul is where the most profound alchemy occurs. The unconscious is working overtime, gathering the fragmented pieces of your shadow, processing the grief of your past, and weaving together a completely new psychological framework that will soon emerge into your conscious awareness. So, how do you know if you are merely stuck or if you are secretly on the precipice of this sudden, monumental breakthrough? There are 5 distinct, undeniable signs of this invisible preparation, and recognizing them is the key to surviving the process without sabotaging your own growth. The first sign manifests in the realm of dreams. As the conscious mind exhausts itself and finally surrenders its frantic attempts to control the healing process, The unconscious begins to communicate with unprecedented clarity and intensity. You might start experiencing vivid, chaotic, heavily symbolic dreams that leave you waking up feeling emotionally raw or profoundly shifted. These are not ordinary dreams. They are the architectural blueprints of your new psyche being drawn in real time. Jung believed that dreams are impartial, spontaneous products of the unconscious psyche, outside the control of the will, and when you are on the verge of a structural life change, your dreams will reflect the violent dismantling of your old ego structures. You might dream of houses falling apart, of being lost in unfamiliar cities, of dying, or of giving birth, all of which are classic Jungian motifs, indicating that a massive psychological rebirth is imminent. You must not fear these nocturnal disruptions. They are the proof that the shadow integration you have worked so hard on is finally taking root in the deepest layers of your mind. The second sign is the inescapable feeling of liminality, a pervasive sense of profound emptiness and detachment from the world around you. The things that used to excite you now feel completely hollow. The ambitions that once drove you seem meaningless, and the distractions you used to rely on to numb your pain no longer work. You might look at your career, your hobbies, or even your living space and feel a strange sense of alienation, as if you are a ghost haunting a life that no longer belongs to you. This is because your psychological energy has been completely withdrawn from the external world and redirected inward to fuel the massive unconscious reorganization taking place. It feels like depression, it feels like despair, but it is actually a state of profound psychological incubation. Your psyche is intentionally starving your old attachments to ensure that when the sudden shift occurs, you will not be tethered to a reality that no longer serves your authentic self. Before we continue, check out our new guide, True Self-Discovery, with 24 practical reflection exercises inspired by the teachings of Carl Jung, designed to help you find your way within. Click below to get True Self-Discovery. As you navigate this profound emptiness, you will begin to notice the third sign, a dramatic increase in synchronicities. Jung coined the term synchronicity to describe meaningful coincidences that cannot be explained by cause and effect, where your internal psychological state is suddenly and impossibly mirrored by external events. You might be thinking about a deeply buried childhood memory, and suddenly someone mentions the exact same scenario, or you might be grappling with a specific internal conflict and a book literally falls off a shelf, opening to a page that provides the exact answer you need. These are not random accidents. They are the universe responding to the critical mass of energy building within you. Synchronicities are the breadcrumbs left by your future self, confirming that the invisible barrier between your internal world and the external reality is beginning to dissolve. When you are about to experience a sudden, radical life shift, the fabric of reality itself becomes fluid, bending and warping around the immense gravitational pull of your impending transformation. The external world is preparing to reorganize itself to match your new internal structure, and these synchronicities are the first tremors of the earthquake. The fourth sign is perhaps the most difficult to endure, and it is the somatic validation of your invisible progress. Your physical body begins to violently reject your old life. As your neural pathways shift and your nervous system slowly recalibrates to a higher frequency of truth and authenticity, you will find that you physically cannot tolerate the things you used to accept. You might develop sudden aversions to certain foods, alcohol, or environments that previously felt comfortable. More importantly, your body will rebel against toxic relationships and shallow interactions. When you are around people who drain your energy, who refuse to respect the boundary setting you have painstakingly implemented, or who demand that you shrink back into your old, compliant self, your body will react with undeniable physical symptoms. You might experience sudden nausea, intense migraines, an unexplainable tightening in your chest, or a crushing wave of exhaustion that forces you to leave the situation. This is not a sign of weakness. This is your nervous system fiercely protecting the fragile new identity that is forming within. Your body knows that a massive breakthrough is coming, and it is preemptively purging anything that threatens to abort the process. This somatic rejection inevitably leads to the fifth and most terrifying sign, the dark night of the soul. This is the absolute climax of your psychological preparation, the darkest, most agonizing phase of the journey, where everything you thought you knew about yourself and your reality completely collapses. You will feel as though you are losing your mind. The grief of losing friends and family who cannot understand or accept your evolving boundaries will feel entirely unbearable. You will be overwhelmed by a profound sense of isolation, a devastating realization that no one can save you. No one can truly understand the depth of your internal agony, and you must walk this final stretch of the path completely alone. The dark night is the ego's final desperate stand before it is forced to surrender control to the self. It will throw every fear, every doubt, every deeply buried insecurity at you, trying to convince you that this is all a mistake, that you have ruined your life, and that you should just go back to the way things were. But you cannot go back. The bridge has already burned. The grief and guilt over the relationships that are dissolving are the necessary price of admission for your authenticity. You are mourning the death of the person you had to be in order to survive your past, and this mourning process cannot be rushed or bypassed. You must sit in the absolute center of this despair, feeling the full weight of the darkness without trying to fix it, without trying to escape it, and without trying to consciously understand it. This is the ultimate test of psychological faith. You are being asked to trust a process you cannot see, to surrender to an intelligence far greater than your conscious mind, and to allow the fire of this dark night to burn away everything that is false within you. And then, just when you think you can no longer endure another second of the pain, just when you have completely given up all hope of ever feeling normal again, it happens. You wake up one day and something is fundamentally different. It is not a gradual lightening of the load. It is a sudden, irreversible shift in your very center of gravity. The crushing anxiety that has been your constant companion for months or years is simply absent. The frantic internal dialogue, the endless questioning, the desperate need to figure everything out, it has all vanished, replaced by a profound, unshakable stillness. You look in the mirror, and the eyes looking back at you are clear, grounded, and undeniably present. The breakthrough has finally arrived. The immense pressure that had been building up in the unconscious has broken through the surface, violently reorganizing your entire psychological landscape. The shadow aspects you fought so hard to integrate are no longer terrifying monsters lurking in the dark. They are vital, accessible sources of power and creativity. The enantiodromia has completed its cycle, transforming your extreme exhaustion into a deep, effortless wellspring of vital energy. You realize with absolute certainty that the old you is truly, permanently gone, and there is no fear in this realization, only an overwhelming sense of liberation. You did not orchestrate this breakthrough, you merely survived the preparation long enough for the psyche to heal itself. The aftermath of this sudden shift is a period of profound disorientation, but it is a joyful, expansive disorientation. The social fallout that terrified you during the dark night now makes perfect sense. You look at the relationships that fell away, and instead of grief, you feel a quiet, respectful gratitude for the roles those people played in your old life, coupled with a deep acceptance that they simply cannot exist in your new reality. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself, to defend your boundaries, or to apologize for your growth. The attractive force of your new, integrated authenticity begins to act like a magnet, effortlessly drawing in new people, new opportunities, and new circumstances that perfectly align with your transformed internal structure. The things you desperately chased in your old life now flow to you without friction, because you are no longer operating from a place of lack and desperation. You have become structurally aligned with the truth of who you are. The effort it used to take just to survive a single day is replaced by a natural, flowing engagement with life. You understand now why the progress had to be invisible, why the preparation had to be so agonizingly slow and silent. If the conscious mind had been allowed to see the magnitude of the change that was coming, it would have been too terrified to proceed. The ego would have undoubtedly tried to abort the process, clinging desperately to the familiar pain rather than stepping into the terrifying unknown of true freedom. The universe had to hide your progress from you in order to protect the process. So, if you are sitting there right now, feeling exhausted, frustrated, and completely stuck, convinced that all your relentless inner work has been for nothing, I am speaking directly to the deepest part of your soul. Do not give up. Do not let the illusion of stagnation convince you to abandon the journey. The fact that you are feeling this unbearable tension, this profound emptiness, this terrifying liminality, is the absolute proof that the critical mass is almost reached. Your unconscious is executing a flawless, masterfully orchestrated dismantling of your false self. The neural pathways are shifting, the shadow is being integrated, the external reality is bending to accommodate your impending rebirth, and the sudden, beautiful, violent shift is hurtling towards you at this very moment. You do not need to try harder, you do not need to figure it out, and you certainly do not need to fix yourself because you are not broken, you are merely under construction. Your only job right now is to fiercely protect your energy, to honor the somatic rejections of your body, to allow the grief of the shifting relationships to wash over you without resistance, and to maintain an unshakable psychological faith in the unseen wisdom of your own mind. The darkness you are experiencing is not the darkness of the tomb, it is the darkness of the womb. You are being prepared for a reality more magnificent, more authentic, and more effortless than your conscious mind can currently comprehend. The earthquake is coming. The tension of opposites is about to snap. Everything is about to happen suddenly, and when it does, you will look back at this exact moment of agonizing despair and realize it was the most beautiful, necessary gift you were ever given. The final crucible that forged your indestructible, true self. The dawn is inevitably preceded by the deepest, coldest part of the night, and your sudden emergence into the light is a psychological certainty, provided you simply surrender to the process and allow the transformation to take its natural, unstoppable course. To fully grasp the magnitude of what is happening to you, we must delve even deeper into Jung's concept of the collective unconscious and how it is actively participating in your current state of perceived stagnation. You are not merely healing your personal traumas, you are tapping into the ancient, inherited psychological heritage of humanity. When you engage in deep shadow integration and brutal self-honesty, you are essentially opening a conduit to the archetypal forces that govern human existence. The exhaustion you feel is not just the fatigue of your own personal mind, it is the immense weight of these archaic energies moving through your nervous system. The collective unconscious does not operate on human timelines. It moves with the slow, glacial, unstoppable force of nature itself. This is why your conscious ego, which is obsessed with speed, efficiency, and visible results, feels so incredibly frustrated. The ego demands immediate gratification, a quick fix, a linear progression from brokenness to wholeness, but the psyche does not heal in a straight line. It heals in a spiral, continuously circling back to the same core wounds, each time from a slightly higher, more integrated vantage point. Every time you feel like you have taken 10 steps backward, every time you find yourself repeating an old pattern or reacting with the same old fear, your ego screams in despair, convinced that all the therapy and all the boundary setting have failed. But from the perspective of the deeper self, you have not regressed. You have merely descended into the next layer of the spiral, encountering the wound at a deeper level of your unconscious architecture. This descent is necessary because true structural change requires that every single root of the false self be unearthed and exposed to the light of consciousness. You are currently in the phase of the alchemical process known as the nigredo, the blackening, where all the superficial elements of your identity must be burned away, reduced to ash, so that the pure, indestructible gold of your authentic self can be extracted. In this phase, the feeling of despair is not an anomaly. It is the defining characteristic. You are meant to feel as though you are wandering in a barren wasteland, completely stripped of your coping mechanisms and your comforting illusions. The profound betrayal you feel by your own psyche is actually a necessary disillusionment. As long as you believe that you can control your healing, as long as you hold on to the hope that your conscious efforts will eventually force a result, you are still operating from the ego. The sudden, violent shift can only occur when the ego is completely and utterly defeated, when it finally throws its hands up in exhaustion and says, "I cannot do this anymore." That precise moment of total surrender, that exact second where you give up all hope of consciously fixing yourself, is the trigger for the unconscious to finally release the critical mass of energy it has been accumulating. Jung observed this phenomenon time and time again in his patients. The moment of greatest darkness, the moment of absolute psychological defeat, was invariably followed by a sudden, spontaneous emergence of a new healing symbol from the unconscious. This is the enantiodromia in its purest form, the pendulum swinging from the extreme of agonizing conscious effort to the opposite extreme of effortless unconscious grace. When this shift occurs, you will not just understand it intellectually, you will feel it violently reorganize your entire somatic experience. The neural pathways that once fired with anxiety, fear, and hypervigilance will suddenly go quiet, pruned away by the massive surge of new psychological energy. In their place, new structural connections will instantly form, grounding you in a visceral sense of safety and belonging that you have never known before. The boundary setting that used to require so much agonizing thought and caused so much guilt will become a natural, automatic reflex, as effortless as breathing. You will no longer have to consciously protect yourself from toxic people because your very energetic signature will repel them. The people who were drawn to your trauma, who fed off your lack of boundaries and your desperate need for approval, will find your new authentic frequency deeply uncomfortable, and they will naturally fall away, saving you the trouble of having to cut them off. This is the invisible genius of the process you are currently enduring. Every tear you have shed in the quiet of your room, every hour you have spent analyzing your patterns, every terrifying moment you have spent standing in the void of liminality has been meticulously recorded and utilized by your deeper self. Nothing has been wasted. The universe is not ignoring your desperate pleas for a breakthrough. It is answering them by building a foundation within you that is strong enough to hold the immense power of your fully realized potential. If the breakthrough had happened when you first asked for it, months or years ago, your psychological structure would have shattered under the intensity of it. You had to be tempered in the fire of this excruciating weight. You had to learn how to sit with the unbearable, how to navigate the terrifying landscape of your own mind without running away, and how to hold the tension of opposites without demanding an immediate resolution. You have developed the psychological musculature required to sustain the sudden, irreversible transformation that is about to occur. So, as you stand on the precipice of this monumental shift, feeling the gravitational pull of the dark night of the soul, I urge you to reframe your entire perspective on your current suffering. Look at your exhaustion not as a symptom of failure, but as the holy badge of honor worn by someone who has dared to do the real, brutal work of individuation. Look at your frustration not as a sign that you are stuck, but as the friction generated by the tectonic plates of your psyche, preparing to fundamentally reorganize your reality. Look at the grief of your shifting relationships and the physical rebellion of your body not as punishments, but as the undeniable proof that the toxic elements of your old life are being successfully, violently purged. You are participating in a miracle of psychological evolution, a profound alchemical transformation that most human beings will never have the courage to even attempt. The wait is almost over. The silent struggle is reaching its crescendo. The invisible preparation is complete. You are about to step out of the waiting room of the soul and into a life that is so vividly, unmistakably yours that it will take your breath away. The suddenness of it will shock you, the beauty of it will overwhelm you, and the sheer, effortless freedom of it will permanently erase every ounce of doubt you ever harbored about the validity of your journey. Keep breathing, keep trusting, and keep holding that space of radical surrender, because the sudden shift is no longer just a possibility, it is an imminent, inescapable reality. Before we continue, check out our new guide, True Self-Discovery, with 24 practical reflection exercises inspired by the teachings of Carl Jung, designed to help you find your way within. Click below to get True Self-Discovery.